Welcome to my top 18 tech fails. Each one so disastrous that they've had to be banned.
So number 18 is an app called Send Me to Heaven. It doesn't actually kill you like the name suggests, but it does kill your phone. It tells you to throw your device up as high as you can in the air and then catch it on the way down. The higher the throw, the more points you get, but then the higher the chance of a concussion when it does come back. I've just agreed to like 16 different disclaimers. Okay, 3, 2, 1, go! See what I got? 5.35 meters. You taking the mic? I guess, unsurprisingly, it didn't take Apple long to permanently ban the app for all iPhones. 2 out of 10 fail.
All right, number 17. I probably don't need to tell you that Tesla makes some of the highest rated electric cars in the world right now. Incredibly tech focused and almost minimalist. The entire thing is often controlled by just one big screen in the middle. But this also has its downsides, as people have recently found that when you fast charge your Tesla at a charging station, the car's electronics can get so hot that this screen stops working properly. It's been seen to become unresponsive, sometimes even just go straight up blank, which, given that the screen on a Tesla contains like 90% of the controls for your car, is a pretty major blunder. And as such, Tesla has had to recall 130,000 of them to try and fix it. 3 out of 10 fail. Horrendous mishap, but saved partly by the fact that no one seems to have had an accident because of it yet.
Okay, who here likes a good time? Do you also like danger and head injuries by any chance? No? Well, Hasbro does. Because in 2004, after years of development, the famous toy company came out with this. The Super Soaker Monster Rocket. And it was a technical marvel. Yes, I've had to blow this entire thing myself. It is a 7-foot rocket locked into this base here. It's got a tank that's filled with water. And basically what you do is you pump air through it to load that water at a high pressure into the rocket. Oh, Milo, you come to watch? Oh, never mind. Right, so now that that's at its maximum, I should be able to press this trigger to release that lock, and water will be ejected out at a blistering pace to launch this rocket into the sky. Now, you've probably gathered this already, but the monster rocket was not a safe toy. The water tank in the rocket had a tendency to explode, the cap on top of the bottle had a tendency of flinging off and smacking people in the face, and because the rockets themselves flew so high, they also managed to knock people out on the way down. Yeah, Hasbro was literally giving kids concussions. So no, they didn't last very long on store shelves. I have no idea how this is going to go. 3, 2, 1. Oh no. I guess that makes it even more of a fail then. Can we just animate it in the edit while I leave some bad feedback on eBay?
I feel even worse though for the owners of the Polaris RZR cars. See, Polaris is one of the top brands for these high-speed off-road vehicles, and so it's kind of unfortunate that they've managed to have not one, but 2 separate waves of recalls for these RZR cars in the space of a few months. It was bad enough that one of the battery cables was incorrectly routed, leading to electrical failure, but also, and this is quite problematic for a car, the steering wheels were coming off. Can you imagine? You're just kind of going for it 100 miles an hour against a rocky cliff face until you suddenly realize, oh, that would be my steering wheel. This has no doubt given a lot of users a free near-death experience, and for 5 especially unlucky drivers, it's caused them to completely lose control and actually their vehicles to flip over while they're still inside.
I almost can't believe I'm saying this, but number 14 is a video game. And when I first came across this, I was like, come on, you can't ban a video game for violence. But then I saw it. We're talking about Manhunt 2, released back in 2007, and it is genuinely chilling. You play as an escaped mental patient, and the game encourages you to go around stalking victims, and when you find them and when an opportunity presents itself, murdering them in the most sadistic way possible. But the strangest part of the whole thing is the callous tone with which the game presents this. It's almost as if it's just a normal thing to do. So almost immediately upon release, it was banned in Britain and Ireland, suspended in the United States, and pretty much all of the most violent parts censored around the world, which, as you can imagine, didn't do wonders for the sales volumes. 4 out of 10 fail. Okay. We all love a good bargain. And so when Indian automotive company Tata Motors announced the Tata Nano, a full 4-seater hatchback car, available to buy for the equivalent of just $1,400, people quite understandably lost their minds. It didn't have air conditioning, and it was a bit of a squeeze at full capacity, but for someone whose budget would only otherwise allow for a scooter or a motorbike, it seemed like a fair price to pay. Now, the lesson we learned though is that there are only so many corners you can cut on a car before it starts to become a hazard. The Nano also compromised on the quality of its circuits, airbags, metals, its batteries. Every single part of this car was basically the cheapest that Tata Motors could get, leading to at least 10 cases of these Nanos spontaneously exploding into flames.
Now, what's another thing that really doesn't mix well with fire hazards? Oh yeah, babies. As the company LOREX, who specializes in baby monitors, found out the hard way. In 2016, the company released their flagship product, the ironically named Care and Share range. And it was popular. It was their most technologically advanced yet. It allowed parents to not just see their kids from afar, but also to snap photos of them, motion track them if they moved. It even had night vision. Unfortunately, all of this tech being crammed into such a tight space led to not 5, not 10, but 488 reports of overheating, including situations where the battery packs were actually expanding, causing the outer casing of the monitor to physically shoot off potentially explosive electronic devices in the same room you keep your toddler. 5 out of 10. Great plan. And if you are finding this interesting, then a sub to the channel would be naughty.
The electric blanket. Cozy, cuddly, warm, and highly flammable. All you need to do is to ask the customers of InvoSpa, who in 2020 bought themselves a shiny new, silky velvet electric blanket, which, like most electric blankets, has a thin layer of electric cabling inside of it, which is used to raise its temperature. But InvoSpa's cabling lost control of that temperature. How did customers find out? By using it, by waking up in the middle of the night with burns across their body. Can you imagine? You'd be having like the worst nightmare ever, and then you would wake up and realize that the pain was actually real. Eventually, the US Product Safety Commission, they had to get involved, issuing a mandatory recall of 7,000 of these blankets. And if we have a look at the InvoSpa website now, there is not a sign of one of them. So I can only assume that they were told to never sell a blanket again.
Anyway, if you think that last one was scary, then welcome to the top 10. These ones are probably gonna keep you up at night. So, this thing right here is a pacemaker. It's a tiny little device that you can get implanted inside of you. It's hooked up directly to your heart, and it sends electrical signals to it to make sure that it beats in a stable rhythm. Now, with that in mind, this is pretty much the one piece of tech that you do not want to go wrong. But you know what video we're in. Introducing the healthcare company ABBOTT, who built their pacemakers to be radio controlled, but then they didn't add in any security measures, meaning that any other person could buy a remote control from eBay and use it to, I kid you not, hack the patient's heartbeats, to either run the battery of the pacemaker down, or even to make it go so fast that it could kill them instantly. Thankfully, ABBOTT did act fast before anyone died, asking all 465,000 people who had one to come back to their practice and urgently updating their pacemaker software. But wow, 6 out of 10 fail. You really got to trust a company before connecting them directly to your heart. But it actually gets creepier still with CLEARVIEW AI, a company who describe themselves as world's largest facial network. And unfortunately, it is exactly what it sounds like. This company holds and collates billions of photos of people's faces, gathering them from literally any source it can find, including your social media pages, without asking you. They market themselves as if they solely exist for law enforcement. Like, if the police wanted to find out who a potential criminal is, they can hand CLEARVIEW just one image of them, and then this company can link that to every shot in their database, and more often than not, come back with all of that person's details. However, they've recently been accused of going one step too far by actually selling this data to just private companies and people for nothing more than market research purposes. Imagine a world where a complete stranger could just take one random photo of you while you're walking down the street, and then through that, find out everything from your home address to your nan's phone number. Should technology of that power even exist? Thankfully, governments have stepped in, making it completely illegal in Canada and Australia, and in most other countries, constricting its use to purely governmental. Right, have you heard of FITBIT? The Google-owned fitness company that helps you to burn calories through the use of their smart trackers. Well, calories aren't the only thing they're burning right now. In the ever-moving race to squeeze as much tech as possible into a tiny space, for their Fitbit IONIC smartwatch, the company didn't give their batteries enough cooling. So they started to overheat. But I'm not talking to the point of like, oh, this is getting a bit toasty. They were getting hot enough to burn through the skins of people's wrists, which is kind of terrifying because it's not like at that point you can just quickly fling it away if you suddenly get burned. It's strapped in. At least 78 burns were reported, which was enough to push this company to recall all 1.7 million of these IONICs. That already pushes it into a 6 out of 10 fail category. But it might actually be about to get worse, because now a lawsuit has been filed which says that the burn problem actually affects all Fitbit devices and that the company's just been trying to sweep the issue under the rug.
Okay, time to dial things up further, from skin burns to explosives. I'm of course talking about this guy. Now, you're probably quite familiar with the Note 7 story already. Samsung released the phone, people absolutely loved it, but then it started exploding, thanks to Samsung trying to cram the battery into a space that really wasn't big enough for it. People got second-degree burns thanks to this phone. And so maybe the even more surprising part of this is that we've actually managed to get one. After these started blowing up and they were banned from trains, planes, and just about every single public location, almost all of them were urgently recalled. But a few remain. Oh my god, look at that. A real Galaxy Note 7. So let's see. Man, it's so crazy that this used to be like the cutting edge. It just looks so dated next to the current S22 Ultra. But yeah, I mean, this is the real original home screen of the Galaxy Note 7. The last thing a lot of people saw before disaster. The Note 7 never killed anybody, but apart from that, it was pretty much as bad as it could get. We're not talking like hundreds of thousands of dollars lost, not even millions. The latest estimates suggest that Samsung lost $17 billion from people turning to other brands because of this. $17 billion. I mean, that's enough money to buy the White House 43 times over. 7 out of 10 fail. And so I will now turn this off and probably never touch it again.
All right, number 6. Now is where these products become fatal. Starting with Peloton, the company who's developed a bit of a name for their smart treadmills that allow people to join in on live classes from the comfort of their own homes. Well, it looks like this company spent a little too long focusing on the tech and not quite long enough on the safety. This significant gap underneath the track, combined with an incredibly grippy material, created the perfect opportunity for both kids and pets to be dragged underneath. This is giving me shivers just looking at it. There were no less than 72 reports of this happening. Thankfully, this kid was fine, but many of them had abrasions, broken bones, and lacerations. One child even died. So obviously this product was taken back and never sold again. I can't give it less than a 7 out of 10 fail.
But this next one might surprise you. It's the selfie stick. Case in point. In 2014, the combination of more and more people wanting to share their personal stories with others, combined with the improving image quality of smartphones, meant that selfie sticks exploded in popularity. You couldn't go to a tourist destination and not find like 20 people walking around with what amounts to a 3-foot metal lance in front of them. And there are 2 problems with this. One, that these are a genuine hazard to people around you, with countless reports of accidental poking, slicing, and even gouging. But 2, they're an even bigger threat to the user, who in many cases just completely forget what's around them, resulting in at least 150 reported deaths through a gruesome combination of cliff plunges, drowning, and even electrocution. That is 5 times the amount of deaths reported from shark attacks in the same time period. So this bad boy is at least an 8 out of 10. And even though selfie sticks aren't banned everywhere now, you will regularly find restricted zones where you can't take them out.
Now, if you were alive in America during the 1980s, then you'll remember lawn darts. And if you do, there's a not negligible chance that the lawn darts made you unalive. Not technically a tech product, but very much a disaster. The idea was simple. Darts is fun. Outdoor time is fun. Let's mix the 2 together and see how many eyes we can take out. You would stand in one circle and then try to throw the darts into another circle 35 feet away from you. However, the combination of having to throw these so hard for them to get there, with the variability that comes from wind, and the large, sharpened metal tips on the ends, made this one of the most horrific product launches of all time. Like, if you think the 72 injuries from that Peloton were bad, lawn darts managed to fast-track 6,100 people straight to the emergency rooms of hospitals, most of them being younger than the age of 15. Right, as if it couldn't get any worse, number 3 is a medicine that can kill people. I wish I was joking. So you know Pfizer, that big drug company who's become one of the main suppliers of COVID vaccines? Yeah, they haven't had the smoothest history. One of their biggest previous products was an anti-inflammatory pain relief medication called BEXTRA. And Pfizer had big hopes for BEXTRA. As far as they were concerned, it was a technological marvel, a revolutionary class of painkillers safer than normal medicines, and of course, 20 times the price. And while that's already tough pill to swallow, the real crime that this company committed was going behind the backs of the FDA, the US Food and Drugs Administration. The FDA had only approved the use of BEXTRA for a very specific purpose. But Pfizer, feeling like they had a mainstream winner on their hands, started also marketing it as a more general treatment for pain around the body. Plus, in an effort to shift as much of this stuff as possible, they started selling it at 2 times the initially agreed dosage. The result? 87 cases of severe, and I mean very, very severe, sometimes fatal, skin reactions, combined with an elevated risk of heart attacks for all patients. And so, quite deservedly, BEXTRA was taken off the shelves. Pfizer had to pay a $2.3 billion fine, and their subsidiary who supplied the medicine was slapped with criminal charges for false marketing and deception. So, yeah, this feels like a pretty good time to award a 9 out of 10 fail. And while we're on the topic of medicine, we can't make a list of banned tech and not at least mention THERANOS. Long story short, there was a lady called Elizabeth Holmes who created a device that could perform hundreds of different types of blood tests, but only using a single tiny pinprick blood sample. It was completely game-changing in concept, because it would single-handedly invalidate all of the faff of having to take many different samples and then sending them to many different labs to undergo many different tests. This one unit would do everything. Except it was a lie. It was shown that the machine didn't work, and that Holmes actually knew that it didn't work, but had gone to an extreme extent to trick investors into thinking that it did. But it's not just that THERANOS was not useful, false blood readings are life-threatening. They're the difference between getting the treatments that you need to live and not. And I guess what makes this one of the biggest tech fails of all time is the sheer fall that this girl had when the public found out. One moment she was the multi-billionaire poster child for Silicon Valley, the next she had a net worth of 0, the potential to be sentenced for up to 20 years in prison, and even a Hulu show being made just about her failure. I really want to give Theranos a 10 out of 10 fail, but the next one is just such a catastrophe that I'm gonna give it a 9. Okay, so you might have heard of the Boeing 737. It's the most successful commercial plane in existence. So many different airlines use this one machine, and so it was a pretty huge deal when the Boeing company announced its successor, the Boeing 737 MAX. It could travel further, faster, and more efficiently. It had lower running costs and a much nicer interior, except it hadn't been tested thoroughly enough before making it public. A combination of some sensors that weren't working as planned, and some new software, which was not explained properly to pilots, led to not 1, but 2 crashes in quick succession. And let's be very clear, when a plane goes down, it is a tragedy. No one survives. So this one product caused the death of 346 people before it was suspended by most countries. The 737 MAX, it has recently started recirculating again now, but Boeing has apparently lost tens of billions because of it. A true 10 out of 10 fail in all aspects.
Right, I've spent 20 minutes now telling you about tech that you should never use, so I want to finish with just one that you definitely should. The Opera desktop browser. It's just like your current browser, but with 5 things that take it to the next level. When you're watching videos like this, you can tap one button to turn them into floating videos, to watch in the background while you're doing other things. Your social media accounts can be linked to your browser, so without leaving what you're doing, you can reply to your Instagram DMs or your Facebook messages. It has a built-in ad blocker, which stops all of those really annoying, often inappropriate ads from appearing, which as a byproduct also speeds up the browser. You can import all of your bookmarks and settings from your current browser into Opera, and it literally takes like 5 seconds. And then number 1 is the pinboard, which is like the one place to collect all of your web content. So if I'm planning a huge shopping spree, for example, I can use this to keep track of all the various different products that I'm eyeing up. There's actually a ton more really cool things about this, especially for shoppers, but I won't spoil it. I will let you experience it for yourself. So link in the description to get it for free.
To check out my full playlist of tech fail videos, that's here. Or to see one of the most fun flagship smartphones that I've ever tested, that video's here. My name is Aaron, this is Mr. Who's the Boss, and I'll catch you in the next one.